Hi, I'm Craig. That's my brother Brad. Welcome to Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Life is hard, but you can't give up. Let's have a conversation. We're gonna make it today. Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Episode 116. Brad, we made it.
We're still here.
Believe it or not.
116 episodes in, and we're going strong. We got a great episode tonight.
Very big one.
Fantastic. An exciting thing. We actually have a guest. People
guys-
always like, hey, you guys have to have a guest. Mix it up a little bit. We got one.
Hey, let's roll. The chat is excited about this. I can tell. Actually, I can't. I'm sorry. This is actually a pre-recorded show tonight. Sorry, guys. So if anybody resubs over on Twitch or super chats or direct donations or uses bits, we will not be able to read them. We'll read them next week for sure, or we just know that we appreciate it for sure.
For sure.
So tonight we're doing a pre-recorded episode because we did this episode. We talked to our interviewee here earlier in the day. And we were going to slice it all together and present it to you guys tonight at our normal streaming time, which is probably the worst streaming time in history, 9 p.m.s on Sunday nights. But hey, it's when we can do it, so it is what it is.
That's right. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit on this show. Hey, Craig, guess what?
Hey,
Speaking of Sundays, Sunday, August 29th. Guess what? The number one movie was on this day in 1975.
Ooh, 1975. I'm still saying a summer blockbuster hit. I'm going to go with Saturday Night Fever.
Oh,
Saturday Night Fever. Is that anywhere close?
no.
No.
You want a hint?
Sure.
Okay, ready?
My girl wants. Oh, sorry.
That's your go-to for anything. No, here we go. Here's your hint. Ready?
Jaws. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You know what's funny? What's funny about that is Madeline loves to watch the Jaws ride from Universal Studios on YouTube. She doesn't even know what Jaws is, but she's like, "Can we watch the shark one?"
There's something about Jaws because my oldest Dylan, he wants to watch this movie, and I have never watched Jaws, the movie myself. I've never seen it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's rated PG, but it's 1975 PG.
Hey,
And
look, if it was fine in 1975, it's fine now.
It's got to be fine, right? Like a 9-year-old can watch Jaws, right? These days, I've looked it up on the parent rating stuff.
Yeah.
But that's right. Number one movie on Friday, August 29th, 1975 was Jaws. Here's I've got an ad here for Jaws. You have to watch an ad these days. Here, I just wanted to show you. I have let them watch the trailer for it to get a vibe. I'm like, look, I don't want to take you on a beach vacation one day and you be like, I don't want to get in the water because Jaws. That's my only concern. My kids have probably seen worse than what's in Jaws, you know.
Are you familiar with Common Sense Media? Yeah, so here parents say it's 11 plus.
Well,
kids say 11 plus, but your kids were like watching, Star Wars and Ghostbusters and all sorts of crap.
I'll tell you what, I scarred Dylan for life.
I know
by letting him watch Ghostbusters at 4 years old. To this day, he's still afraid of gargoyles, the terror dogs, and Ghostbusters. It's my fault. I was too excited. I was like, I got a son. I want to show him all my favorite movies from when I was a kid. But I feel like I probably watched Ghostbusters came out when I was 1 year old.
No.
And I feel like it's always existed. So I justified it, but no. But he likes it now. It only made him stronger.
The reality is that he was watching it when he was your age now. That's the reality of it. I've actually, it's been funny to see you kind of come to that realization that you scarred your child for life because your overexcitement for it. But yes,
overexcitement for nostalgia. Listen, dads, slow down. They're gonna see your favorite movies. They don't need to see Ghostbusters when they're 4. Give them a few more years. But he did. It's not like he cried or anything. He liked it. He didn't like the terror dogs. But at the same time,
You know,
he's way into Back to the Future right now.
the dogs are
Way.
one thing. The dogs are one thing, but for me, the thing that I'm gonna have a hard time with, because my girls want to watch Ghostbusters, and I'm like, I don't know. And the reason I'm saying I don't know is mainly because that freaky librarian at the very beginning of the movie.
That was the scariest thing to me.
It
And
is.
I remember when I showed Dylan Ghostbusters the first time, I covered his eyes there because I was like, I didn't like this when I was, 4, 5, 6. I always fast forwarded
7, 8,
through
9.
that little part.
Right.
So I covered his eyes, but I didn't think like the terror dogs. But
No. With the red eyes, man, that's scary.
I guess so. It didn't scare me. I thought it might not scare him, but that's the way it goes these days. I
I
don't know.
guess. I mean, well, what are we even doing with our kids? What are we even doing?
I don't know. They've got so many freaking media options out
Sheltered
there. You
kids.
just, I try not to helicopter the kids too much.
Okay, hold on. Like, dude, let's be real. Like, I want to. Like, okay,
pulling up
this is
terror dogs.
terrifying. This is terrifying.
Okay, that's not from. Is that a scene from Ghostbusters?
I
Is
think
that when?
so.
Oh, is that when the closet door opens up and she slides right on in?
I mean, those are terrifying figures.
I guess so.
That's
You're right.
scary as shit. Anyway,
Well, you know what? He's already seen it. It's in his psyche now forever.
all right. Well, good job. So what else do we have
Dad.
going on before we get to our interview?
We've got a YouTube comment of the day.
Oh, that's right. It's kind of important. We announce
The YouTube comment of the day.
Now, I'm going to do a special YouTube comment of the day today because
Mhm.
I was looking through the comments real quick and I picked one out, but then I was reading the one below it and I was like, well, that's nice too. And then I read the other one. I'm going to do 3 YouTube comments of the day today.
Listen, hold on. If I'm fine with that, but if you do that, you need to cut your points into thirds. All right?
I was thinking 333 points for each of them.
Whatever. All right. That's fine. What do we got?
All right, here we go. So Algae Eater 09 says, I don't know for how much longer, Craig. He says, don't give up, Craig. These are awesome. Seeing y'all two collab, always a good listen to. Okay, so they like the show because you had mentioned last week. I don't know.
Well, Algae Eater does.
Yeah.
And so do 6 people who gave that a thumbs up. So that's good.
That's right. We got some viewers. Jose says we need more weekdays. Once a week isn't enough for people chatting respectfully from whatever side, and that comes from Chile and a solid G1. So there we go, Jose. Appreciate it. And Family Dog 85 says the only 2 channels that I never skip ads.
What's the other one?
I think
Mine?
either yours or mine or whatever,
Well, that's nice.
That's fantastic. But I want, 3 comments in a row saying good things about our show. I was reading those and I was like, you know what? All 3 YouTube comments of the day. Plus, we didn't do an episode last week. So let's just make up for it a little bit, and if we're not here next week, well, then we've got it covered.
Well, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. Brad and I were talking about ending it at 115. So, we're at 116. So we made it past there.
That's
so,
true. That's
I'm
true.
just saying, hey, this show, you never know if it's going to go.
If you like the show, you know what? The best way to show that you love it, that you want to keep it going, is to support it, whether it's through your Twitch contributions or YouTube contributions or whatever it may be. Look, we gotta put food on the table. That's what it comes down to. That's all.
Yeah, just gotta be able to support the show. That's all. But whatever, that's fine. Like I said, ultimately, I'm spending like 5 hours working on this show today. So want to make sure it's good.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of that, we had an interview today. I'll let you do the intro really quick about this, and this is going to be the entire episode. If you guys enjoy this type of show, please let us know. Put us down in the comments. There's no algorithm today, so you guys need to get on down to the comments and just help the algorithm grow. No algorithm, just the algorithm. So help the show grow by doing all that stuff. You guys are watching over on Twitch. Greatly appreciate that. And I want to let you know that this week is going to be a fun week. I'm coming off a back to old school week over on Twitch, and I'm going to be returning back to the NES this week, but have some big plans long term. So I'm excited to kind of put all this together and kind of go. So Brad, give us a rundown of who our guest this is and why it's important.
Yeah, so we've got an awesome guest. I've connected with a fascinating figure in the tech world
Figure.
through the magic of Twitter and social media. Uh, Larry Sanger, a co-founder of Wikipedia, is joining us on the show tonight. We've had a few back and forths on Twitter. Very nice fellow, has complimented my music and has been sharing it. And I invited him on the show a few weeks ago. He said he'd join us, and to my surprise, I was like, "Great, fantastic!" Gave us an hour of his time to just sort of chat about his history, his journey with Wikipedia, what he's working on now, and he's doing important work for the sake of keeping the information that we find on the internet legit. He's been doing it for over 20 years. So I'm excited that he came on the show, and I really appreciate it. So that's our guest tonight, Larry.
Yep. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think anybody who's ever used Wikipedia should, look at this guy and be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thanks," or
Oh.
Yeah.
But even he'll say in the interview, he'll say, he's on the same plane. He's kind of looking at Wikipedia these days and where it's at, going like, I don't know, but he's working on fixing it. So.
I think the title of tonight's episode is going to be "The Founder of Wikipedia Hates Wikipedia."
Well, he's working on it. That's for sure. But he's doing a lot of cool stuff.
Working on his hate. All right, let's get to the interview, guys. Once again, we will not be coming back after this. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Once again, do a thumbs up over on YouTube, and if you're watching over on Twitch, I don't know, just enjoy the show.
Yeah. All right, y'all like it when we have guests on the show. So we have a very special guest today, and as a co-founder of Wikipedia, I want to introduce Larry Sanger by reading his Wikipedia page.
Oh boy.
Here we go. Lawrence Mark Sanger, born July 16th, 1968, is an American internet project developer and philosopher who co-founded the online encyclopedia Wikipedia, along with Jimmy Wales, for which Sanger coined the name and wrote much of its original governing policy. Sanger has worked on other online projects, including Newpedia, Encyclopedia of Earth, Citizendium. Did I say that right?
Citizendium, pretty close.
There we go. Watch No Learn, Reading Bear, Infobit, and Everpedia. He has also advised blockchain company Funware and the nonprofit online American political encyclopedia Ballotpedia. Please welcome to the show, Weekdays with Craig and Brad, Larry Sanger. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yep, there we go. Now, how accurate was that introduction, it coming straight off of Wikipedia?
I think they really try to get the entry about me correct. So it actually is. It's pretty much correct, except for the thing about Funware. I had one or two calls with those guys, and I don't really advise them much, but they've got a signed contract, so they're proud of that. And
wait. So you're telling me, Larry, that something on Wikipedia is not accurate?
No, nope. There's a lot of things that are not accurate on Wikipedia. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, we want to say thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for taking a moment out of your schedule to join us. We've got some questions we wanted to ask you, and just sort of start with like the beginning of your career and how it started, how we all ended up with Wikipedia on the internet. If we want to start there, and you can talk about, just kind of what it said. Jimmy Wales, you started this with Jimmy Wales, it says on your Wikipedia page. Let's hear some background on Wikipedia and how it's grown and changed over the years.
It's a big question. I was a grad student in philosophy in 2000, and a website that I had started was winding down, and I was trying to get advice from different acquaintances about what to replace it with. And one of those acquaintances, whom I had known since the mid 1990s, was Jimmy Wales. Not close friends or anything, but we'd actually even met a couple of times face to face previously. And he said, "Don't work on that. Come and work as basically the in-house founder and editor-in-chief of this new website that we want to start. We've picked out a domain name. It's called Nupedia, Nupedia .com, and basically." So it was my job. I was working for Jimmy Wales' company. So the company was, it's out of business now, Bomis. It's just a made-up name. Bomis.com was the name of a portal, and they had a bunch of different little side projects going. So basically, Nupedia, and then its sort of daughter project, Wikipedia, was one of those projects. But they had a lot of stuff going on. They had a number of porn-related websites. As it happens, I didn't have anything to do with that myself.
As the internet happens to have on it, with some dirty projects across the web.
I stepped away for a second and I hear porn. And I had no. Yeah, I'm sorry. What's that, Larry? No.
Yeah, it's like I have often said, Wikipedia is built on the compost heap or the dung heap of the internet. So I think that's pretty fair. It was my job essentially to organize a free encyclopedia that would be open to contributions from everyone, but still manage to be credible, and organized in a way that sort of resembles open source software. So, like, I was supposed to study how Linux was organized and try to imitate the procedures that open source software projects use. So I did that. I recruited a few thousand, mostly academics, in the first year for Nupedia, but the editorial process that we defined for Nupedia was very slow. It was not very productive. So we cast around for different ways to improve the quality, or not the quality, but rather the quantity, especially the pipe leading into Nupedia. And I made a bunch of proposals, and Jimmy Wales, even though they were quite simple, he didn't want to add any more programmers to the project. It was already like, just a money sink for him. So then a friend of mine told me about Wiki software over a Mexican dinner. This is down in Pacific Beach, a neighborhood of San Diego in California. And he told me about wikis and said, yeah, it's amazing how resilient wikis are. You can just put up a page, anybody just with the click of a button can start editing it, and their edits are immediately saved and instantly live to everyone in the world. And, wow, really? And I mean, doesn't this mean that the website is going to end up being just full of garbage?
Right.
And he says, no, it actually is very resilient, because there's more people who are wanting to keep the website looking good than people who are attacking it at any given time. And that actually turned out to be the case. It's actually true. So I basically made a little one-page proposal to Jimmy Wales. Can you please install some wiki software, and we'll try it out as the Nupedia wiki. And the editors on Nupedia, and Jimmy Wales himself, sort of following them, they didn't want to have anything to do with a wiki. I mean, the whole idea is just a little bit too out there for them. So I decided to relaunch the website under a new domain name. I picked out Wikipedia, and Jimmy registered it, and basically the rest is history, as they say. Yeah, it started growing very fast, and instantly really took on a life of its own, independent of Newpedia. But it was actually my job in the first year of Wikipedia, a little over a year, to actually manage the Wikipedia project. And it became basically a full-time job. I had to sort of abandon Newpedia because Wikipedia was so active and there's so much going on, and had to like make sure it wasn't like taken over by trolls and repurposed for all kinds of other purposes. And so I basically had to make what was going to be just sort of a free-for-all that could have become almost anything, just another wiki, really. And that's actually what the wiki experts of the day told me. I mean, they told me that it was just going to be another wiki, and that I wouldn't be able to influence the community enough to avoid that. But I insisted, no, this isn't just a wiki. This is a wiki and an encyclopedia. It's a wiki encyclopedia, and that means we have certain requirements that are different from other wikis. And so we ended up actually defining a new use of wiki software, and that actually is the one that everybody is familiar with now. People look at the original wikis and they say, this is weird. This isn't like what I would expect a wiki to be like. It's almost a different thing altogether. So that's how it got started.
I have so much in there, Larry, that I have to ask you about. Okay, number one, do you feel bad about driving Encyclopedia Britannica out of business? Because clearly you did.
But we didn't actually. Yeah, they stopped publishing like paper books, but
they had to pivot. For sure.
No, they didn't really. Not so much. No, they're as far as I've heard. Last I heard from the president of Britannica, that'd be about 3 years ago. They're doing fine, actually.
Really?
They're doing quite well. I mean,
oh my gosh.
I'll tell you a little. Well, it's not really a secret. I subscribe to Britannica because it's good.
Okay,
I mean,
I just pulled up the revenue
cheap too. It's like $3 a month or something. So.
I retract this is what happens when you don't know what you're talking about. I'll freely admit that. Just guess Encyclopedia's revenue in the last year. Brad, go ahead, take a guess.
I don't have a guess.
Larry?
Let's just hear it.
I don't know. I'm going to say in the hundreds of millions. Anyway,
$90.6 million in revenue.
Yeah.
I was like,
there you go. They're doing
so.
All right.
Way to push Encyclopedia Britannica to the forefront, Larry. Way to go. No, that's awesome.
No, it seems like the idea of what your job was to make sure that it wasn't overtaken by trolls and misinformation is the relentless battle that is Wikipedia.
Is the internet.
It's still to this day, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
right, and you were with the company until I want to say 2009. Or
no, I left very soon. So basically, I got it off the ground. It was growing very well. In fact, it was growing. It was growing exponentially when I left, which was like. So basically, I started working on Newpedia in January of 2000. Started working on Wikipedia in January of 2001, and I basically I was the last of the new hires to be laid off from Bomis. So they were down to their original like 3 or 4 founders essentially, because they lost this massive contract with, I think it was Google, an ad contract, because it was during the bust of the internet, of the .com
Right.
boom. Okay, so and so I basically left at the beginning of March 2002, and then I permanently I permanently separated myself, distanced myself from Wikipedia at the end of that year. Maybe it was the beginning of 2003. So I washed my hands of it entirely.
So you've been gone for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
And you're pretty vocal about Wikipedia now, obviously,
Yeah.
kind of the direction of it and the general thought. Why? Like, give me the overarching, like, synopsis of what's wrong with Wikipedia and how it's different from your original vision.
Yeah. Well, my original vision was something that was credible and also neutral. I wanted Wikipedia to be open, more open to experts, more welcoming, but also to everyone else as well, so that they would work shoulder to shoulder. And I wanted it to be a lot bigger than it is in terms of the community. I mean, if there's no reason why the number of active users on Wikipedia should be limited to like a few thousand. They should have millions of active users, but they don't. They've really restricted the number of people who can really actively work on it de facto. It's just the problem that I have with it now at root is that it is it's sort of a closed system, and it has become centralized. It used to be like, it didn't matter that it was just like a single website, because it was very open and welcoming. People from all over the world, from lots of different political and religious points of view, could come, and they could come together, and if they abided by the neutrality policy, then they'd get along fine, and the resulting articles would represent lots and lots of different points of view, and just become increasingly high quality. So it is true that the quality improved quite a bit, but basically the point of view became gradually, basically between about, I would say, 2004, 2005 until 2010 or so, it just made this slide from its original neutrality to basically something that looks like the editorial positions of the New York Times or the BBC, something like that. So the idea then is that, so in other words, kind of left-leaning, but still trying to appear authoritative. And then as those sorts of mainstream news sources made this slide to partisanship over the last 10 years, especially since Trump came into office, so has Wikipedia. Wikipedia has gotten worse and worse. And so much so that in the last few years, whenever I've looked at Wikipedia articles, I've just been shocked, actually, at just how incredibly biased and unfair, and with regard to certain people, just outright libelous. I mean, clearly libelous. They could easily be sued if there were anyone readily identifiable to sue.
Well, so,
and some people are trying.
Can you provide, like, what are some examples of things that you've seen?
Well, I mean, there's examples come across my desk, so to speak, I'd say weekly.
Can you think of any in particular
Well,
person? That would be
there was a tweet just earlier today, and sometimes these things come to my attention through Twitter, and there's a famous doctor who is basically wrote this very interesting. So it's Robert W. Malone, right? So he's a famous for his COVID work, but he was already a famous scientist before this. And he posted this. Okay, so how about we go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole for a moment? He wrote this 4 hours ago. This will show how messed up this system is. Who is Robert Malone? And then he just basically rattles off all the places where the Wikipedia article about him really misses the mark. It just leaves off all kinds of really important information that should be in Dr. Malone's article. And he's not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. You look up any article about any conservative politician or pundit, and you will find such words as extremist and not more than that, right? They'll just like leave off any books that the Wikipedia editors don't want you to know about, leave off entire parts of the person's career, or they will exaggerate certain scandals far out of proportion to what they appeared, how they ever appeared in the media. So yeah, there's more to it than that, but yeah.
Sure. So what do you know what it takes to be? You're talking about how nowadays it seems to be more confined as to who can be a Wikipedia editor. It seems like. Now, what are the qualifications to be somebody who edits on Wikipedia?
Well,
do you know what they're doing?
Sure.
These days?
I mean, I can tell you, it's not that there are any qualifications. It's not like anyone is like vetting your credentials or anything like that. It's in fact, you don't have to reveal any personal information about yourself. You just have to play well with the people who are there.
Oh, did we lose?
Uh-oh.
A little bit.
So exciting! It froze Larry up. That's all right.
They're attacking us.
Yeah, for sure. They're coming for us. Well, it's pretty interesting stuff, and I have everything pulled up that Larry was just talking about. I'm going to drop Larry for just a second, and we'll have him rejoin us in a second. Oh, there he is. Here we go.
Yeah,
there you go, Larry.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I hope it wasn't something I pressed, but anyway, what was I saying?
We're talking about what it takes to become a Wikipedia editor and how they're not really vetting you.
Right. They don't necessarily know anything about you. And by they here, well, we just mean volunteers, admins. You don't have to go through a process exactly. You can go on there and try to make edits without even making an account. And if your edits are to some article that nobody cares about, and they are not too adventuresome, then they might even let you make those edits if you are if you're not signed in. But generally speaking, you're not going to be allowed to make even totally innocuous and obviously helpful edits on certain kinds of articles, not just the ones that are locked down, even if it's not locked down and you're allowed to edit it. But if you try to make any edits to certain articles, you're going to be shut down, sternly warned, and or just blocked. And I hear that all the time going on. So I wrote a couple of blog posts, and one last year and one a couple of months ago now on my blog, larrysanger.org. And I give a lot of examples of articles about hot button topics in the culture war. And if you were to go in and like make a new account and try to edit any of those articles that I mentioned there, especially if you tried to do it in a way that was obviously in disagreement or in try to balance politically the bias, and that is there, you'll be shut down. You'll be rolled back at the very least, right? There's a very good chance, especially if you do it like more than once, that you will simply be banned. So it happens all the time.
Sure. What do you got pulled up there, Craig?
Oh, I have Larry's blog.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little B-roll while we're talking about it. That's all.
Sure.
Producing on the fly.
So this is all interesting because we're living in a time where we're all after what's true in information, and we have certain information that I can't imagine trying to edit a page on Wikipedia about coronavirus right now. It's probably watched more than any other page on the website, right? And so this is very dangerous because and it's not just happening on Wikipedia, it's happening kind of across the board on all media outlets. If you say some more social media, we all see it. One thing after another. You post this, I have found it insanely convenient that every single doctor that has anything that strays from, let's say, Dr. Fauci's narrative has been shoved and ousted and is called a quack, like every single one of them over the last year.
Absolutely. Malone is one of them, I believe.
What's that? Oh, yeah, exactly. Malone is one of them. And it's a very dangerous thing because we have gotten accustomed to going to websites like Wikipedia and saying, well, look, it's on Wikipedia, therefore what I say is valid. It's right here, without really thinking about the back end of things and whether or not there is bias there.
Yeah.
Now, Larry, you said something that really kind of perked my ears a little bit, right? That these are volunteers that are running these different pages, right? So are there people who are paid to be overlords at Wikipedia to make sure certain information is put out? Because the idea that these people being volunteers, I mean, it makes sense, right? You have a younger audience who probably sits around all day and just monitors Wikipedia, and that's what they do as a hobby. And then they get a little sense of power, and then they want to ram it down your throat because they are the moderator, and that's what they do. And you see, I feel like you see that pretty frequently with volunteer positions. You just get a little bit of power, and then it's my way or the highway,
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, it's interesting that you should say that. That's exactly what happened when Wikipedia was getting started. To the Open Content Web Directory, DMOZ. It's actually what Wikipedia was modeled after. But it is absolutely true that open projects that provide opportunities for some volunteers to stand in authority over other volunteers end up being very it ends up being no fun for the people who are under the thumb of the overlords. And it's basically Wikipedia does not have official paid by the Wikimedia Foundation editors. No, but does it have people who are paid in order to watch Wikipedia, make sure that articles on sensitive topics remain, have the messaging that some paymaster wants them to have? The answer is absolutely. That's a well-known, well-established fact at this point. So there's PR firms, actually. There's something called WikiPR that's the only one that I cite because it's so easy to remember the name. But there are others. There's lots of others, and that sort of thing is done in house, I'm sure, by the CIA, by the mafia, by any sorts of big organizations, any sort of big corporations. It's one of the biggest, most influential sources of information, and especially for like spies and PR people. The name of the game is actually influencing opinion these days. It's psychological warfare, as they call it, which really means convincing people of various things, right? Trying to get them into certain kinds of moods about certain things, getting them feeling a certain way. And Wikipedia is a very influential, or at least it has been a very influential means of doing that. And on Wikipedia, all you have to do is just learn how to play the game, and organize the right circle of friends within the system, and you can basically make the pages say whatever you want. So I have no doubt that there are people at in various sorts of organizations, government, corporate, that that are true experts at getting, they play 3D chess in the Wikipedia game, essentially.
Does that freak you out that you created something that has all these different tentacles in it? Big pharma, big business, you mentioned the mafia, like all these different, they all are going to this thing that you helped create, and ultimately, they're modifying it to benefit them. Is that blow your mind? I mean, that's crazy to me to think about.
I'll tell you this. Now, I have no information about any wise guys coming on and doing editing on Wikipedia, so just please don't whack me. Yeah. No.
They're there with you now, aren't they, Larry?
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Well, do you feel that you mentioned the idea of like things being said on Wiki that people can be held liable for, right? Do you feel like there's been a lot of talk about Section 230 in particular, about the idea that websites can be held accountable as publishers, and it's conversation. But I feel like, do you think Wikipedia is scared of that? Because if you have something that is so community driven, and let's say something that was made in 1996 when Wikipedia wasn't even in existence, when Wikipedia is considered old on the internet was an entirely different place. And obviously the idea of reworking 230 is crazy, but that would also just pretty much decimate their business model, or at least the model of the whole nonprofit, I guess.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I know that Jimmy Wales is a huge fan of Section 230. I was for a long time too. I think in a lot of ways it's outlived its usefulness. I also think that either Section 230 protections or similar protections are extremely important for very powerful, very rich people in Silicon Valley and other corporations, and for that matter, those same PR people that I was talking about. Not individual low-level PR people I love. Actually, I've worked with a few. I don't have any in for the PR people. I'm talking about people who are managing reputations for the rich and powerful. They want the internet to remain manipulable. I'm sure. So they will do everything they can to make sure that something like Section 230 remains in place. Now, does that mean that Wikipedia should feel safe? Not necessarily. I think that it has come under the crosshairs of the Republican Party more because of the treatment of Republicans under the Section 230 protections, not just in Wikipedia, but on social media generally. And so under a new regime, it's entirely possible that the system might have to make some adjustments due to political, political influence, or political requirements. The thing is, I actually think we're more likely to see a positive influence, not through that, but actually through a project that I'm working on now, which is going to essentially organize all the rest of the encyclopedias online into a single network that enables, basically, we want to create the technical tools that will make it really easy to find encyclopedia articles from the long tail of encyclopedia articles on all different topics. Make it possible for people to write articles that get seen, actually. They don't just drop like a rock to the 800th place of the Google search results, right? But to do that, we need to actually have a protocol that enables us to identify all of the encyclopedia articles out there, and then make it really easy for people to select them and create selections. So we want to write software and protocols for doing that, and really looking forward to more and more components of that coming online, which they're starting to now.
So this is the Knowledge Standards Foundation.
That's the organization.
Mhm.
I started that last fall,
Mhm.
and then the project that I'm talking about is called the Encyclosphere.
Mhm.
The Encyclosphere project. So this is not the name of an app. This is not the name of an encyclopedia. It is a description. It's a concept, really, of all the encyclopedias in the world that have published. They're all published according to the same standard, the same protocol, so that it becomes possible for their articles to be found much more easily and cataloged much more easily, and for those catalogs of articles to be kept up to date really fast, and also so that people can publish reviews of articles and find what is the very best article. Ultimately, the dream is what is the very best article according to a Christian conservative on the topic of God. The system should be able to tell you that according to votes of Christian conservatives. And then you could also ask that same question with regard to liberal atheists, and also about Muslims in Pakistan or whatever. And the ultimately, what I want to see is the entire world, not just Wikipedia, being a venue of intellectual endeavor, the ability to represent the best of what is known from every different point of view. This is ultimately what I wanted for Wikipedia.
Mhm.
Wikipedia isn't working on that problem anymore.
Mhm.
Do you feel that as you talk about the idea of let's say a conservative Christian, whatever, they want to find this article about whatever, do you feel like that could lead to people talk about confirmation bias being a very big thing right now, the rabbit hole that people go down, the silos that people go down, and the echo chambers? Do you feel like that could potentially lead to a larger echo chamber, though, by if you're a white Christian conservative looking for the proper thoughts on beliefs on, whatever pick topic. Do you feel like that could further exacerbate that problem?
Well, the network that I'm talking about would be the opposite of an echo chamber, because all of the articles from all of those different points of view would be part of the same network.
Right.
So it'd be very easy to compare the sort of article that you would prefer to other articles on the same topic. It'd be fascinating, actually, to do a side-by-side comparison.
So the idea of, so the idea of somebody saying, well, I watch both Fox and CNN, right? It's kind of having both those perspectives right there in front of you, in this concept that you're talking about.
Yeah. And if we can actually motivate people to rate encyclopedia articles, which is it's a big ask. I'm not sure that we will be able to do that. But if we can, then you'll actually be able to operationalize the whole idea of neutrality, find the most neutral article by equally weighting the opinions of conservatives versus liberals, or, whatever.
Sure.
Isn't that what we're all after right now anyway? It's just the ability to
look
at column A. Well, look at column A, look at column B, look at column C, and then assess the information and put it together in your with your own perspective, and move forward with your life that way. It seems like like you're saying, the whole idea right now is to condition people to think a certain way and accept a certain narrative, whether you are in column A or column B. Like, you've got to think this way and you've got to think that way. We see it all day long, and we see it specifically on social media. If you get into any conversation, you kind of already know what the person's going to say to you next. If you're having a back and forth with somebody who disagrees with you, you say A, they say B, and how this conversation goes. Nobody ends up changing their mind. Nobody has any information that they can truly reference that is solid, because it's all been sort of crafted to fit into a certain narrative. I do want to kind of touch on, I watched an interview where you were on Tucker Carlson in 2019. And you were talking about social media, and you were forming a social media strike at the time, which was something that I attempted to do in my own small way this year. And it was the same sort of concept, where we should just get off social media at a certain point in time and just say, hey, you can't do this. You can't control us this way, or you can't, put these sort of restrictions on us. What was the goal of your social media strike in 2019?
Well, the goal was basically to raise awareness of the idea of decentralized social media, the problems of social media, get people thinking about their digital rights. And I think I did raise a fair bit of awareness with that. I didn't get people to leave in droves, as far as I know, but I can say, but although I'll tell you, it's interesting. Just as I started publicizing that, the actual rankings of Twitter and Wikipedia and Instagram and a number of others, they actually started going down. I actually documented this on my website, on my blog. It's very interesting. I don't know if it had anything to do with that, but maybe. But I think there is now, a couple of years later, much stronger interest in alternatives, like things like Parler and Minds, Gab, and then for videos, there's I guess Rumble is the biggest, but BitChute isn't far behind, and Library or Odyssey. They're all doing pretty well, and these are, I've described these as conservative ghettos, and they kind of are, especially compared to top 10 websites or top 50 websites. But they're going, and that's nice. But I still think the problem is, if you give your your accounts essentially and your friends lists to some corporation, even if it is more respectful of free speech, it still has the same root problem of the Silicon Valley giants, namely, you're giving them power over you. The real solution is for us to own our own data, and to participate in the social media via stuff that we own, essentially. So, I mean, if you want to pull up startthis.org, you will see my own social media solution. And it's not just mine. This is being paid for by the Knowledge Standards Foundation. And if you look at it, it looks like a Twitter feed. Now, this is just version 1. It isn't public yet, although we are offering this. And you guys actually, if either you guys want to do this, or if you want to make one of these for your show or whatever, I'd be happy to set one up and even host it for you. We actually have money set aside to host these for at least a year. Basically, all you do is you give us a domain name that you own, point it to our space, and we will set up the software. And then, of course, if you can take it at any time, the software will always be free to you. We will update it. And we've got some really motivated people working on this project. And the neat thing about this is, in version 2, you're going to be able to talk across blogs in the same way that you can talk between accounts on Twitter. And then after that, we're going to make it possible for people to interact with people on various social media sites. So one of the things that I've done is I've talked to the CEO of Minds, and Bill Ottman, and he's very interested in supporting us. He said that he would make RSS feeds, so in other words, blog type feeds of the social media feeds of on Minds. So I ought to be able to show within a single page feeds from Minds and Twitter and Instagram and who knows, even YouTube channels, I imagine. And they would all be together on your own social media space, and it will be free, right? And we will work hard. I don't know if we'll ever succeed, but the dream is to make it possible to interact with, not just with each other across these different, what are called mini feeds, but also between mini feeds and things like Twitter and Minds and so forth. So right now, actually, I can already do that. I can put a new post on startthis.org, which is my own mini feed, and a plugin. It's because it's built on top of WordPress, right? So this is a WordPress plugin. It actually pushes my little micro post, as it's called, to Twitter. So actually, if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see a lot of the top level items. They say via startthis.org/ stuff, and then that's basically that started life on social media that I own, right? So that's the direction we really need to move in, because then we can't be shut down, right?
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating, and really important work, because that is what we're seeing right now across the board. I mean, I think the only alternative right now is, you see, like an artist like me, I try to get people to my mailing list, for example, because my mailing list is the only direct correspondence that I have that nobody can mess with, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Well, are you on MailChimp?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well.
yeah. So, but you understand what I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
my Facebook could go at any point. My Twitter could go at any point
Yeah.
if I post the wrong thing.
What
But
do I
what
need to know about MailChimp?
Well,
yeah.
and they've shut some people down
Yeah.
for having politically incorrect posts or mails. Yes.
Well, let me ask you. Can I ask you something, Larry? If let's just say I think the mini feed idea is amazing, right? Really, really great idea, right? But let's say people don't gravitate to that,
Yeah.
and we continue on the same course we are right now with the overlords, whatever. I don't even know what that means. Whatever whoever they are, I don't know whether it's big tech or big pharma or whoever they are. We continue down this path of Twitter being a cesspool, Facebook being a cesspool, and just social media as a whole just being this horrible place. Where are we in 5 years?
Wow. Well, I mean, obviously, mini feed isn't the only possible solution.
Right.
Are you saying if all of the
also
rans remain also rans?
right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's hard. I'm not good at seeing the future. I think let's just say there are a lot of people, and a growing number of people are like waking up, and the fact that they're waking up has to change our calculus. Just because people have been asleep to the abuses that have been that big tech have been involved in, that doesn't mean that they will continue on the same trajectory, that they will be allowed either by politicians. There are political solutions that are possible. I think they're not too likely, actually, because there's let's just say that the forces of tyranny are a lot. They seem to be more motivated and have deeper pockets than the forces of freedom. On the other hand, there's a hell of a lot more of us who want freedom and who, if organized in the right way, can make a really big difference. So I mean, yeah, I don't like to contemplate the worst case scenario too much. That's depressing.
Is that worst case scenario though? Do you feel like that's the worst case scenario where everything just stays status quo, nothing changes, and we continue to go down the hellish hole that is Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok?
Well, I mean, we are in decline right now. I mean, so that's not a status quo. That's a rapid slide toward tyranny, as far as I can tell.
Right.
It's getting worse every day, it seems like.
Yeah.
You'll see.
And I just have to say this. Brad, I'm a fan of your stuff. I mean, it's really I appreciate your music a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't. I mean, if it were a just world, you would have gotten a major record contract, and your songs would have been played a lot on radios all around the world, and you'd be famous, and you wouldn't have time to talk to me. But
well, I'm glad that we do have the chance. No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about it. And I appreciate when you share my tunes on Twitter as well. That's been something that has grown. I've sort of sat and behaved myself throughout my entire career as a musician over the last 20 years. And so it's been an interesting thing to see that, every little instance that I spoke up about what I believed in online, caused a new rift online, with whether it was fans of mine, old fans, or with social media, with what was getting removed and whatnot. So it's been interesting to see, and you do see,
Yeah.
some of these bigger guys out there are starting to speak up a little bit. You do have Eric Clapton and Van
Yeah.
Morrison. That's about it. but
Yeah.
no, I appreciate the kind words for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well deserved. Um, I play fiddle myself. I play Irish traditional music, but I just like play when the only time I ever play outside of my house is at a local session. I
Say
guess
maybe we should put together a duo here. This would be great.
I'm gonna have to write a song that needs fiddle on it.
That's right.
I actually, your most recent one, I was hearing a little fiddle, part in the showers and thinking about the tune, and yeah,
All right.
I had it all mapped out.
Well,
Nice.
Can I get a Larry Sanger remix of one of my tracks soon on YouTube? I won't copyright strike you at all. I promise.
Well,
Well,
I mean, if you send me like an Audible file or something like that, maybe I'll take some time.
All right.
well, Larry, is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to throw out there? Anything you want to add before we wrap up today?
Now, where can we find you online? So we've got a few options now, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, well, the first place, if you're interested in the Encyclosphere project, I hope you'll come to encyclosphere.org or Minifeed for that matter, because those are both projects of the Knowledge Standards Foundation. So we're going to be sharing news about that. And then, so you can sign up. As it happens, the week after next, actually about 10 days, no, a little over, no, like 8 days from today, we are going to be starting a seminar. And if you scroll down a little bit, I actually scroll up rather, you'll see, the technology of decentralization. That's free. So if people are into the tech side of things, they're interested in learning about how and why the internet should be decentralized, then join us. And here I don't mean in the sense of blockchain. I mean in the old-fashioned sense, which is more robust and more reliable, in my opinion. And then, well, you can go to Twitter, L Sanger on Twitter. And I'll tell people who are following this, if you are active on social media and you can commit to using Minifeed, then get in touch with me. Maybe you can like send an email or a message via larrysanger.org, which is my blog, or on Twitter maybe, and we'll set you up. We actually want to get several dozen more mini feeds up and going. We have a few dozen now, which is cool. But we want to get more. We need some more, basically for beta testing purposes, but other purposes as well. We really want to start raising awareness. We're not launching yet, right? But we're sort of like starting a little bit of awareness. So
Awesome.
That's
well, Larry,
exciting.
we appreciate you being a part of this, man, and congratulations on keeping things real. 100, as the kids say.
Did they say that? Okay.
No, I don't know. It's the rumor. Keeping things 100.
All right.
I saw it on the show Jesse. It's on Disney Channel. It's just my kids watch it. So
Okay, yeah, we got to stay hip on this show for
that's
sure.
right.
Yeah, hip. All right.
All right, Larry. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep. We'll see you
All right.
soon.
So long.